Okay, next up we have Ian Ferguson, who is one of the less sleep-inducing lecturers here at Abertay.
Note only less.
Well, come on, we know what students are like. So he's going to be doing a talk, I believe, revolving around digital forensics. Excellent, so I'll give the floor to Ian.
Thank you very much. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How many of you are Abertay students? Splendid, thank you. You have no excuse for sitting here and suffering yet more of me talking at you. If you're asleep in half an hour, you only have yourselves to blame. For those of you who aren't Abertay students, I guess I'd better introduce myself briefly. My name's Ian Ferguson. I lecture in various things, to the first year on basic hardware and operating systems, to later years on digital forensics. Now, round about 2 days before we knocked off for Christmas, Paul Dalton, one of the organisers of this, came along to me and said, would you mind giving a talk at the conference? I said, yeah, that's a bit short notice, but all right. You really want me to do it? Well, we're not sure, we've got enough space for you, kind of thing. All right. So anyway, on this Monday, he finally gets back to me and says, would you care to give that talk? I said, 2 days, right. Okay. But he made a fundamental mistake. He said to a university lecturer, you can talk about anything you like. So, when I finish at about 7 o'clock tonight, what I thought I'd do, I had several possible talks I could have given. I could have talked about some work that one of last year's undergraduates did as a project for me about Firefox and SQLite forensics. I decided not to do that. I've spoken about that at other conferences. If people want to talk to me about that afterwards, come and say SQLite forensics and I'm more than happy to talk about it. I thought since it was the mid-afternoon shift, it was about time rather than me talking, we got you doing some thinking out there and asking some questions and maybe a bit of interaction going on. So I thought what I'll do is simply toss some kind of hand grenades into the audience and see who throws them back. Well, that makes me a toss. No, don't do it. Anyway, the title might lead you to think that this has something to do with cloud computing. And whilst it might be mentioned somewhere in all of this, it's not the main focus of what's going on. Enough about me. Let's talk about digital forensics. I contend that digital forensics is in something of a golden age at the moment. It's about to become very much harder, I suspect. At the minute, we don't do too badly in digital forensics. We can work an awful lot of things out, we can gather an awful lot of evidence in cases where you think we might not be able to. But due to a combination of up-and-coming technologies, things that are just emerging right now, and I'll keep filling in for the next 15 seconds while this lot come in. It's all right, I'm quite used to students wandering in halfway through a lecture. It's not a novel experience. Okay? Due to a combination of emerging technologies, I think we may be faced relatively soon with something that I'm going to call the minimally insecure computer. I would love to be able to say it's called the totally secure computer, but I don't think we'll ever quite get that far. I may be wrong. But I want you to get your heads around the idea. What happens if all of this excellent broken glass, what happens if all of this excellent research we're doing on security actually works? Oh my God, suppose one day in 5 years' time, somebody in Microsoft turns around and says, I've got it, I know how to make computers secure, this computer is now 100% secure, and actually they were right. Now what would happen? That sounds great. Well, one, we're all out of a job, so that's probably not a good thing. But 2, the world's computing is secure. Auntie Ethel's bank account is finally secure. I don't get any more phone calls in the middle of the night saying, is it all right if I make a credit card transaction? No, it is not all right if you make a credit card transaction. Go away. What happens in that scenario? We've made Auntie Ethel secure, but we've also made every cyber criminal and every terrorist in the world secure as well. Oh, I'd never thought about that. Is it actually a good thing to be doing security research and trying to make everything 100% secure? One of the key facts you need to know about digital forensics is that it only works by accident. Okay? It does. Think about it. What is everything we play with in digital forensics? Where does it come from? It comes because the operating system is written in such an untidy, godforsaken, unholy manner that it leaves crap lying around all over the place on the disk, if we're talking traditional systems. Okay? Your browser leaves your browsing history lying all over the place. There's cookies galore. You try and delete it. What does it do? What's the first thing you learn in the digital forensics class? Nothing's ever really deleted. All we've done is take it out of the index. Exactly like Rory's system call 20 minutes ago. We've taken the entry to his system call out of the index, the code's still in memory. Likewise with loads and loads and loads of things in computing, in operating systems, and digital forensics. It all works by accident. If Microsoft woke up tomorrow morning and said, I know, let's go and have a tidy up. Let's go and clear all of this stuff that we've left lying around that we shouldn't really have left lying around out. Oh dear, us digital forensics people are going to have a very, very hard time. So we're going to talk about some of the things that might make that minimally insecure computer, what this tidy up might involve. And we'll talk about some of the possible responses that we as security people, as digital forensic people, as law enforcement, as ethical hackers, what kind of response might we have to some of that? And I should say I feel really out of place here today when I've come out. You know, I looked at all of the other speakers and everybody, you know, some of the folks in the audience here that come in, you know, they've got hacker written all over them in large letters, usually literally on the t-shirts. You know. Apologies to Mrs. McCune, Windows fangirl, you know, Windows all over the t-shirt. She's a hacker. You know. I'm a software engineer. I'm a digital forensics person. I haven't got a t-shirt, I'm sorry. I haven't got a t-shirt with a banner on. What I do have is a woolly pullover, so I wore that instead. So kind of think, you know, digital forensics, Sarah Lund style. Okay, does the word Sarah Lund mean anything to you? If not, you're watching the wrong Swedish movies. Right. What's he saying? The end is nigh. Digital forensics about to come crashing down on its feet. Oh, no, 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 this is dreadful. But hang on, lots of people have said this before. I'm not the first. Okay? If you were to go and read some of these papers, hey, we're in a university, I'm a lecturer, I'm going to give you academic papers to look at. Details are on the last slide if you want them. The stuff by Siegfried and all, many of you will know Ian Casey, Irish name, Casey, chap, you'll have read the book. He's written papers saying, actually things are looking dodgy, we may not be able to keep doing this for much longer. Many of you will know and have heard of Simpson Garfinkel, he came and talked to us here not so long ago. They've all said this at various times in the past 5 years. So what I'm saying isn't necessarily new. Saying the end is nigh, you know, we're not going to be able to get into crime anymore. And yet here we are in 2013. I'm still teaching digital forensics. The guys from Scottish Crime Drugs Enforcement Agency are still investigating these kind of things. We ain't been locked out quite yet. Am I bleating about nothing? Am I worrying about nothing? What I want to prove to you, or at least what I want to get you thinking about, is the fact that something I'm going to call the encryption boundary is slowly shrinking. It's tightening around our necks. How many different metaphors can I get into one presentation? We've got dark clouds coming in. We've got shrinking encryption boundaries. Hell, I should have been an English lecturer. Okay, I contend that there are 5 things. Monty Python. There are 5 things you should know about the wise world of man. Oh no, it's not Monty Python, it's Blackadder, isn't it? Sorry. The first thing you should know, Cardinal Fang, the comfy chair. No, never mind. Some of you have no idea what I'm going on about. Sorry, you're just the wrong generation. You haven't seen the right comedy and you haven't got the right cultural references. I feel sorry for you. Right.
I've got the DVD if anyone wants it.
But it's full of rootkits. Right. It's a Sony DVD. Okay. 5 things that I think we should worry about as digital forensics people. Full disk encryption. If you've done my module, you will know why we should worry about full disk encryption. We should worry about secure network communication. We should worry about secure network communication. Surely we want secure network communication. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. We should worry about secure processors. Processors, not processors, processors. We should worry about anonymous routing, and we should worry about cloud computing. I'd like to spend a little bit of time saying why we should worry about these things. What time have I got to finish for the break, folks? How long have I got? 10 to. Ooh, bloody hell. Right, better get the shift on. Right, encryption. The first 3 dark clouds are based on encryption. You all know what encryption is. State-of-the-art encryption. 10 past. That's even. Oh yeah, sorry, it's even better. Right, you've got to put up with me for longer. I'll slow down again. Today, encryption, if done properly, if implemented properly, is practically unbreakable. Okay, we've all done the exercise where we calculate how long does it take to crack a certain hash, and it's 15 times the length of the universe once the key gets beyond 128 bits, whatever it is. To all intents and purposes, encryption done properly is unbreakable. I grant you there are exceptions. The organisations that are likely to have the computer power or techniques to break current cipher technology aren't going to tell me about it. There may be people in this room they would tell about it, but they're not going to tell me. Okay, but we can make some surmises of what their capabilities are. We've now got a magnificent machine, thanks to the efforts of Duncan and Adam in the lab, which is our 6 PlayStation cluster supercomputer. 36 cores all in all. It took me about 4 hours to break an LM hash the other day. The CIA can afford more PlayStations than Abertay, so they can probably break these hashes somewhat quicker. But remember, encryption, to all intents and purposes, is unbreakable. Full disk encryption, I suspect most of you know this, but please allow me just briefly to outline this for those who don't. Things like BitLocker, Best Crypt, the idea that nothing unencrypted ever hits your hard disk, your permanent storage, whatever, if this stuff is installed. We had this nightmare scenario a few years ago, was it with Windows 7, when Microsoft were threatening to make BitLocker turned on by default on all versions of Windows, and various folk in the digital forensics community went, "Ah!" And Microsoft kind of took notice and only put it on the professional version. If a disk's encrypted with this stuff, you're not going to see the contents of that disk unless you've got the key. The response to that threat, interestingly, is not technological, it was legal. If you go and have a look at RIPA, the RIPA? Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act, I'll do my Sir Humphrey bit, Part 3, Section 49, check, it is right, says that if asked by a suitably empowered agent of the law or the court, you must divulge any passwords or encryption keys that you are told to. All right, this is out of date now. A huge 38 orders have been made in that since the year 2000, so it's not wildly used, but you can be forced to divulge your passwords. We all know the story about plausible deniability and true crypt lockers within true crypt lockers and all of this stuff to kind of get around having to divulge passwords. That's a response, it's a non-technical response, it may not be wonderfully effective. Just to prove to you that we are in the world of secure network comms now, does anybody doubt that SSL is secure? You know, it's not bad. Has anybody gone about trying to break SSL recently? Didn't think so. Right. Okay. Effectively, we can get two computers talking to each other, and we can't eavesdrop on the conversation. More or less. How many of you have come across secure processors? None. One or two. Right. Okay. I almost wish that I'd slung in some of my first year lecture slides to here. You've got a processor. How does it talk to the rest of the outside world? What does it communicate via? I'm looking for one word. Begins with B, ends with S, has a U in the middle. Bus. Very good. Okay. It is mid-afternoon. I'll let you off. What would happen if before something was put onto a bus, be it an address bus, be it a data bus, be it any of the 25 buses that you will find in your wristwatch these days? Who's counting? What if that stuff was encrypted before it ever left the processor? You could do that. Before you put something on the address bus, you could encrypt it. It gets sent out to memory. What sits in memory is therefore encrypted. How on earth can we read it? It's encrypted. That's all right. When you read it back in, it goes through the same bus, the same set of pins on the processor. We'll decrypt it there. I could talk about using XOR encryption and some keys to actually do a nice little demo of it. If I'd had time, I might have done that. But what you've got is a situation where nothing outside of the registers of the computer is unencrypted. That's pretty secure. This may sound like cloud cuckoo land. These things exist. I can go and buy one tomorrow. It is phenomenally slow, but it works. You know, if you want something with a cast iron guarantee that no data, I can do a RAM image of that computer, and all I'm going to get is gibberish. Okay? So this is starting to get really kind of nicely secure. Let's look at another couple of these dark clouds. Let's do the history thing. Bletchley Park, World War II, Enigma, the wolf packs, the U-boats. Any of you read this kind of stuff? I find it absolutely fascinating. If you haven't read the code book by Simon Singh, where are you? Go out, get it, read it tonight. It is the book to read. And after that, go and read, what's the other one that talks all about Bletchley Park? I've forgotten the name of it. Well, go and watch Enigma the movie is a good start. It's got what do you call her in it? That's no. I digress. The point was, Allied operation trying to break German codes during World War II. At one point, they were able to do this, and then for some reason, the Germans changed their keys, their key distribution stuff, they changed their code books, and they were no longer able to eavesdrop on German communications. What did they do? Well, they kept on trying to break it, but in the meantime, they resorted to a thing called traffic analysis, which was simply identifying where things come from and where they went to. They could tell that a message had been sent from somewhere in Sardinia to German high command in Berlin, presumably. Okay? So actually, simply by monitoring the volume of messages going from one place to another, they could say, aha, activity is going on in this theatre of warfare, therefore there's something, there's an attack about to happen down in Sardinia. So actually, even though they couldn't read the messages, they could still get useful information out by traffic analysis. What's the modern equivalent? Two terrorists are communicating with encoded, encrypted emails. We have no idea what the contents of the email is. We can still see that something's going on because we know where it's going from and going to. Not if we're using anonymous routing. How many of you are familiar with Tor onion routing? Yeah, okay, right, it works. It's maybe not 100% perfect. If you compromise the exit node of a Tor network, then you have some kind of access in there, but the principle of it is sound enough. So actually we can be shut out of not only the traffic, not only the messages, but we can be shut out of the traffic analysis as well by this kind of routing. We don't know where the messages are going from or going to. haven't got a lot left to analyse here in my classes here, Gov. We're running out of things. Cloud computing. We've all got a cloud virtual machine sitting out there somewhere, server doing something for us. We've all played around with cloud storage and all the rest of it. Very nice. How many of you have come across fragmented file systems? No? Okay. Instead of using Dropbox. Okay, let's take the example of Dropbox. You store a file on Dropbox, it's no longer on your machine, you're storing it somewhere out there on the cloud in Dropbox. We assume that somewhere inside Dropbox.com there's a computer which has a disk and your file is on that disk. Now, if I, as a digital forensics investigator, were to go to Dropbox and say, please can I have that disk, and if by some miracle they turn around and say, there you are, then, okay, I've got your file. There is absolutely nothing which says that your file has to be stored on one disk. It could be that they're using some fancy file system whereby that file is fragmented, so bits of it are on one disk, bits of it are on another disk, bits are on another. Those 3 disks may be in one machine. All those 3 disks could be in different machines. Those different machines, even though they're in the same Dropbox.com domain, could be in the same building. They might be in different buildings. They might be in different countries, different continents. Doesn't matter to you. All you've done is put your file on Dropbox. But if you're using the right kind of distributed, fragmented file systems, if you want to know more about it, Google Ocean Store is a nice example sometime. It's out there. I could possess 50 of those disks and I still wouldn't be able to reconstruct your file because it's distributed over 7,000. We get a huge problem of scale. How on earth do I go about reconstructing that kind of thing? That's before we even begin to worry about the fact that if these disks are under different jurisdictions, yes, I might get the disks that are stored in London. If the folks in LAPD are talking to me this week, I might get the disks that are stored in Los Angeles. The chances of me getting the disks that are stored in Ouagadougou are remote. The ones from Kazakhstan, forget it, I'm not going to see them. Okay? So, cloud computing, oh dear, worried. Put them all together. What have we got? Here is your secure processor. There is the disk. There is the system RAM. There is the internet with all of this distributed file system on it. The green is the unencrypted data. The green data exists in the processor and in the output, presumably on the video screen, on the RAM. If you start putting encrypted data onto the screen, you're going to piss your users off extremely quickly. Okay, so that's probably, that might be interesting. Okay, that might be the one place. But one place where data is actually not encrypted might be when it's being presented to somebody. Hold that thought. All of the rest, anything going to disk has been protected by full disk encryption. Anything going to the system RAM has been protected by this secure processor and memory encryption. Anything being sent out to the internet is being protected by encrypted comms. Oh, that doesn't leave me with much to go on. We're not there yet with this kind of thing, but one of the duties of academics is to look into the future, 5 years down the line, and say, what if? What if this stuff does all work? Are we all out of a job? Evidence blackout from traditional digital forensic methods is what I am considering as a possibility. All of our research into more advanced security has worked. We are hoist with our own petard. Just to be classical for a moment, I had to go and look this up. I was fairly sure it was something like this. Shakespeare, Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 4. For 'tis the sport to have the engineer hoist with his own petard. Isn't that nice? You've all heard of being somebody who's got that by their own means, hoist by petard. It actually refers to us as engineers. Isn't that nice? Even Shakespeare foresaw this coming. What a clever fellow. Okay, let's have a look. What might we do about it, and why should we start thinking about it now? Well, what was the response to full disk encryption? The response was to start doing memory imaging, to do live imaging of things at the crime scene, so that we can actually try and recover encryption passwords from the RAM of the computer. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Possible responses. 1, to attack the information or to try and gather the evidence while it is still in the clear. Van Eck phreaking. Any of you heard of Van Eck phreaking? 1 or 2. Nice one. Incidentally, I have no idea whether this works with LCD displays or not. Somebody can... It doesn't, it won't, will it? Okay? So this one's probably out the box already, but when you had a good old-fashioned CRT display, and it had huge coils inside it driving the electron gun, when you put something on the screen, this was emitting huge amounts of electromagnetic interference. If you stick an aerial relatively near to it, I'm probably talking 3 to 4 feet, then you can pick up this interference being emitted from the screen and use it to reconstruct the video signal. Kind of cute. So I happen to know somebody's office is just through there. So if I stand here with my wireless aerial, I can use Van Eck phreaking to pick up what's on the display screen just through there. Except, of course, now I can't because we're all using LCD displays. There may be some equivalent with LCD displays, which I don't know about. Traditional policing, video surveillance. We're going to have to start drilling holes in walls and feeding fibre optics through so we can put tiny little cameras in and start watching what people are typing on there. The only place we're going to see information that isn't encrypted is on their screen. Does current law allow us to do this? Ooh. Yes, probably, but I'll let you... Shh. Yes, exactly. Yes, I shall... Moving quickly on. Some of you guys come in at this stage. Hacking techniques. Can we actually start using... Now this is where it gets interesting. This is where I come in. Can we start using hacking techniques? Can we use the sort of things that you guys do to actually start gathering evidence? Yes, it doesn't match the ACPO guidelines on reproducibility of evidence, but one day, very soon, I think we're going to have to chuck the ACPO guidelines in the bin and say, yes, they've served their useful purpose for the last 10 years. Actually, this is the only way we're going to start getting evidence. So all of the stuff that you're learning about compromising machines and things, I could see that in 5 years' time, I could see them all being standard police techniques. And I'm not joking. Okay? Black bag cryptanalysis. That mean anything to anybody? Nicking the code books. Okay? Is getting into cryptanalysis, getting into cracking encryption by stealing people's keys by non-technical means. Are we allowed to go and steal things from people at the minute by the laws of evidence? No. Okay. There's an admissibility problem with all of this stuff. If you do it, then you may well say what the information is. Can you use it in a court of law? No. It's not the clear picture of criminal activity that we've been used to. Things are going to change. This is my get out clause when they get me up in front of the Millard. I'm not suggesting that any of these things above are actually a good idea. They are merely technical possibilities. And if you want to attack things in the clear, then maybe we have to go back to that. Or as a police friend once said, go back to 4 AM, live forensics, through the door, length of hosepipe filled with lead shot. Acquire evidence. Okay, we could of course start taking cracking encryption schemes seriously. I mean, we've talked about these calculations that it's longer than the length of the universe in order to crack some of them. At the minute, maybe it is, maybe with a bit of research, maybe some mathematics, maybe faster parallel machines, maybe by employing the entire number of devices on the internet to crack one encryption problem, maybe we could get round this kind of thing, maybe not. Either way, it's difficult. The practical ramifications of that are not going to be easy. Do we actually want to do that? Do we want to have a machine or a technique that is capable of breaking any encryption? Well, I go back to what we said right at the beginning. The same techniques that protect Auntie Ethel's bank account are being used to protect the terrorist's bank account. Okay? Is it a good idea that we really want to be able to protect things to the nth degree? Yes, okay, there's always flaws that might let us in via some back door, but either way, that may or may not be a feasible response. There's legislation, there's the law. Much of this is already in place. In the UK, RIPA says that we may ask for the keys. You might not get given them, but then we'll just slap them with a large prison sentence saying you should have given us the keys to prove your innocence. Okay, it doesn't quite work like that. Are we actually geared up for large-scale use of that? If it turned out that every digital forensics case that ever came in front of the police required divulgence of those keys, we're going to have to go for every case to the court and say, can you make an order that that person there gives me their encryption keys? It simply won't scale. I'm sure the guys from the police will tell you about the backlogs that exist in various places already. That approach won't work. Civil liberty fears. I am still amazed to this day that RIPA was passed into law and so little fuss was made about it in this country. It is an astounding piece of legislation that says I may not keep something secret from the state. And there was no fuss was made about this whatsoever, or very little, back in 2000 when it was introduced. There are great civil liberties fears by kind of legislating saying you must put a back door in every computer system that exists so that law enforcement may have a look at it. It's grand when you've got the UK police force. Yes, I trust them, by and large, believe it or not. Now, without wishing to be particularly political at this stage, would I want the same powers to be granted to the Chinese police so that they can go and knock on the doors of dissidents promoting freedom of speech and things at this freedom? Yeah, full stop. Do I want them locked up by this kind of legislation? No, damn right I don't. So legislation may or may not be an answer to any of this.
Chinese would just make them disappear anyway.
The Chinese. Well, what a foul calumny to put before the Chinese nation. No, I'm being videoed. I'm saying nothing. But if I disappear tomorrow, right. Some of you will have come across the idea of forensic readiness. The idea that a PC or a piece of equipment is already gathering evidence as it's being ordinarily used, and that in fact all we need to do is go in there with the right password and say, give me the log of the past 5 days of what's gone on, and it gives you everything. It's possible. You could maybe persuade Microsoft to do this and say, look, we want you to log absolutely everything that goes on this PC, and we want you to keep it for, pick a time, 3 hours, 2 days, 6 months, a year, whatever. Big disks, we can do it. But unfortunately, anybody can now build a PC. So it's perfectly possible for somebody who intentionally wishes to break the law to build their own PC without any of the forensic readiness stuff in there. So that's not really an option. How about restricting internet access? You could only get onto the internet if you've got a forensically ready PC, one that really is logging all of the time. Civil liberties folks will be up in arms, bad idea. We all know about the dark internet anyway. Why have it registered? We'll have a completely alternative internet. We've got the technology. Who says it's got to be connected to internet number 1? We'll have internet number 2 just for doing this kind of thing. We could persuade people that they ought to have forensically ready devices and PCs kicking about the place. And I just wanted to say something about roles. I've kind of already alluded to it, but I want to make it absolutely plain. Do you, when you're doing what you do in computer security, do you think of yourself as one of the good guys? Who thinks of themselves as one of the good guys? Who doesn't? You're Nick. Yeah, I know you. Bloody hell. Right, okay, yeah. I agree. He's Danish and dangerous. It's a bad combination. Yeah, of course, we think of ourselves as the good guys. I dare say that the average Chinese policeman thinks of himself as one of the good guys. And in his context, in his mindset, in his world, he is. The idea, the concept of good guys and bad guys is context sensitive. It depends on cultural backgrounds. If you want to start getting into moral absolutes, I'm afraid you're getting so far away from computer science that I can't say too much about it. It's not my area. And yet, this entire problem that I'm talking about is going to come down to an ethical thing about, do the good guys have access to this information? Do the bad guys have access to this information? Do the good guys have access to keeping this information entirely secure? Do the bad guys have access to keeping this entirely secure? This really does come to, we call our course here ethical hacking, and then we don't teach any module on ethics to you, which I've always found a bit odd. Okay, start thinking about that kind of thing, because one day in your career, in your lifetime, it will come back and hit you in the face. Did I say persuade people to actually sign up to have their computer be forensically ready? Nobody in their right mind is going to deliberately have their PC be forensically ready, are they? Okay, I like that. That just has such a ring of truth about it. I thought that was quite reasonable. Anyway, how are we doing for time? This is going to work out. Okay. Compromise. We could compromise. At the minute, we catch a lot of low-level, unintelligent, dumb cybercriminals. People who don't know what they're doing, haven't thought about it, have gone surfing for kiddie porn, and haven't turned on private browsing. Okay? That's easy. We can do that. We'll always be able to catch the numpty, I suspect. We catch very few high-level, intelligent cybercriminals who are techno-savvy, really know what they're doing, and have hidden themselves. Who is the best cybercriminal on the planet at the moment? Me. You just don't know about it. I'm that good. Okay? We don't catch the good ones. That is true, by the way. It is me. We certainly need to cooperate. We're very bad at the minute. We, as a human race, have not got this whole international law thing sorted out. I cannot go to the Uzbekistan secret police tomorrow and say, I'm investigating a crime, please can I have that disc? Well, I can, but they're not going to do that. Okay. Internet governance, the idea that the internet is governed by different laws in different places, is actually insane, and one day will be realised as such. You may or may not have heard about the movement to set up the internet as a separate country. Exactly, everybody laughs and it sounds ludicrous. Think about it. What?
Like it has its own laws.
It has its own laws. There's one set of laws says what you can do on the internet, and it's being voted for democratically by all internet users. What's wrong with that? Oh, yeah, okay. It's going to put a lot of lawyers out of business, but hey, I can live with that. Some better cooperation between the operating system manufacturers, the ISPs, the cloud providers, the lawmakers, the law enforcers. Someday we're going to have to get everybody together and on side on this stuff. It's not happened yet. Again, it will do, probably in your lifetime, maybe not in mine, who knows. That's another possible response. And of course the response that I favour, which basically boils down to give the academics lots and lots of money to think about this problem. Yeah, okay. Is it possible to come up with a new digital forensic technique that actually doesn't endanger privacy? Something that could be deployed whereby only the genuine good guys can use it. So I can use it because I'm a real good guy, as well as being a master cyber criminal, but the Chinese secret police can't use it. Is that possible? No. Not yet. Okay. Somebody once said you only need 640k RAM maximum in your PC. They were wrong about that. You may well be wrong about what I've just talked about there. One day, we have no idea how to build a computer with a sense of ethical duty. Oh my God, what an awful concept, a computer that thinks it knows what's right. But Hey, it is the duty of idiots like me to come up with stupid ideas that, 30 years down the line might one day be interesting. I'm sure Asimov had something to say about that, never mind. Right, just about time for me to shut up. Conclusions. We may be about to suffer an evidence blackout due to advances in security technology. At the very least, I contend that digital forensic analysis is about to become very much more difficult. As a society, we've taken the step of demanding access to encryption keys. I leave you with one question which I think summarises the whole damn thing. And I don't have an answer for this. I occasionally vary one way or the other, but I don't have an answer. Should we take the step of demanding that every computational device ever sold is forensically ready? And with that thought, I shall invite questions and say thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, you were talking about systems where you essentially have files split up into
Yes.
quite a bit of chunks.
Yes.
I forgot to ask you a question. There's a technology called Freenet, similar to Tor.
Yeah.
And it works under a similar sort of idea as BitTorrent. The entire idea is that you have this local database of file pieces.
Right.
It's never an entire file.
And is that actually now up and running?
It's been up and running for about almost 10 years now. It's a long-standing project. It's where Tor was actually sort of inspired by. It's very, very, very slow.
It would be, yes.
But you can publish anything to it, and you can then view it back, and then it can come through. I believe they're using the SHA-256 hashes to identify the files.
Okay.
So you do get a little bit of information leakage in the sense that you want to verify that the file is equal to another file that you've already found, and yes, you can be able to find out. But in general, in terms of that sort of unknown storage, it already does exist.
Okay, thanks for that. That I genuinely didn't know. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I was familiar with research projects on it several years ago. I guess what we can say is it's obviously not widespread usage out there. Not, Auntie Ethel doesn't store a bank account on it yet. Time is coming. But thanks for that. I didn't know.
The picture you have with all the different stages being encrypted. Yeah, but who has the encryptions? Like the cloud encryption, that's not done with your keys. That's done with, in example, Dropbox's keys. So they have your keys.
I don't pretend to have the answer to that one. I mean, all I'm bringing out is the theoretic possibility that things could be entirely protected by somebody's key. How this is eventually implemented, yeah, you're right, at the minute somebody else has the key to the Dropbox servers, I don't. But I've no idea who has that key. Anybody could have it. Or was that not your looking blank? That was obviously not the correct response.
No, that's just saying that even though we had perfect security, law enforcement could just ask Dropbox to give them the keys. They don't review.
But you could conceive of a system like that, where it was actually held under my key rather than Dropbox's, in which case it starts to be, okay, right, it's protected by my encryption. The rest of you, away you go. Any more? Thank you for listening. Cheers.